Hey, how you doing? It's James Ellis here coming at you with another episode of The Next Step, where we try and help you take the next step into AI because you really need to. It's really important stuff. And I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm not here to sell you a big set of tool sets. It's not about that. It's about saying, hey, there's some really amazing off-the-shelf AI tools that you should be using right now to solve some of your recruiting, HR, and employer brand challenges. You will be stunned that once you take that first step, all the sorts of things you can start to learn. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks so much for listening. As always, we try to bring you these ideas very much from a third person standpoint, meaning we try to look at actual real world TA employer brand challenges and try to unpack them a bit, try and find ways that we can find some leverage, find some advantages using AI. Now, the best way right now I have to do that is to go on podcasts and videos and LinkedIn Lives and see, oh, where are people talking and where can I infer some challenges, right? If this is interesting to you and you're like, I want to take the next step, but I don't know how to start, the answer is simple. You email me or you LinkedIn me and you say, this is my challenge, and I will see what I can do about making a video just for you. And if you want me to not name you, happy to keep this anonymous. But I want to focus on real world, actual problems that people like you are actually facing every single day. As you know, per usual, none of the tools I'm talking about are paying me or sponsoring me in any way, shape, or form. This is the stuff that I use. This is kind of the approaches I'm taking every single day in my own work. So this is straight, as the kids might say, this is straight off the dome. And yeah, I did say that, and I did video that, and you now have recorded proof, and well, we're all the poorer for it. So anyway, today we're going to talk about a video, a LinkedIn Live that happened just a week or two ago from Universum. Now, full disclosure, I used to work for Universum for a couple years ago, way back when COVID was fresh in everyone's mind, and yeah, as if it's not still. But, so that is to say, I still know a few people who work over there, but this isn't about that. I'm not here to point fingers. I'm not here to tell anybody they're doing something stupid. I'm not here to laugh at anybody. What I'm doing is trying to find real world challenges and saying, hey, there are some interesting ways to use AI to solve them. So today we're talking about a LinkedIn Live video on the Universum channel called What's Really Driving U.S. Employer Branding in 2025, which is great. It's a conversation between Jeff Rugg and Nikki Trifanovic. I'm gonna trip over that. In fact, I just did. Nikki Trifanovic. Trifanovic? I don't know her. So this is a conversation between them. What I did is I scraped the transcript of this, and yes, you can scrape the transcript of LinkedIn Live videos. It takes a couple of steps. Here's just full disclosure. I used a plugin on my Chrome. It scraped the video itself. I threw the video into Mac Whisper, which is like Otter, but it's on my computer and it's great. It made a transcript. I grabbed the transcript. I threw it into Claude. Are you seeing what I'm doing? These tools are almost free or always free. And I say, Claude, please watch or listen, read the transcript and identify up to 5 challenges that are stated in this conversation and up to 5 challenges that are inferred or that you can imply from this conversation. So it came up with a bunch of stuff. We don't have time to do all of them, but there were 2 that I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Let's talk about that. So here's what we came up with. All right. So the first one, there's 2 challenges we're going to hit. The first one is what Claude has labeled talent scarcity. And I think it's a misnomer, and we're going to talk about that in a second. And then we're also going to talk about EVP relevance and refresh. So today's episode is again for my employer brand friends. Hey, how you doing? This is really interesting stuff and you should be taking notes. And by the way, if you listen to this and if your head isn't completely spinning in terms of where employer brand is about to go, you were not paying attention. You should go back to the beginning and start taking notes. Okay, so here we go. The first challenge is, and this is again what Claude is kind of summarizing in this conversation, he says talent scarcity and critical roles. Engineers and IT digital roles are the most challenging positions to fill with a significant mismatch between what employers want, and this is interesting, 59% seek go-getters. Oh, interesting. And what's available on the market. Only 21% of students identify as go-getters. Okay. To the naked eye, just on the surface, that's a problem. You're looking for this thing. There aren't enough of these things. Boo, this is bad. What are we going to do? Well, we'll buy a lot of technology and we'll buy a lot of stuff and try and figure out how to cobble this together. I'm going to disagree with you. First off, I don't think this is talent scarcity. I don't think this is talent scarcity at all. I know a lot of people, not a lot. Okay, I know enough college graduates and soon to be college graduates, and I don't think any of them would, one, ever call themselves a go-getter, and two, most of them are absolutely go-getters. There's no question these people do amazing work and are trying hard or doing things. And yeah, I don't care what the Wall Street Journal says, the New York Times say about every student is now cheating using AI, so now they're all stupid. I don't care, blah, blah. I don't buy into that. The people who have gone through what we have all gone through in the last 10 years and come out of college going, what the heck do I do now? They are absolutely scrappy as hell. I'm just putting that out there. Okay? Painting with a broad brush? Yes. And the challenge is not that there's a talent scarcity issue. The problem is a communication issue. And that is a company is seeking go-getters, which is a term that like my mom uses, okay? Right? That is not a normal youthful, and I'm 53, and if I'm talking about youthful, you're in trouble here, right? This is not a term people use, right? This is a term you make fun of people for using, or you use in jest to mock someone. Hey, look at that go-getter, right? The problem is companies speak and think in a very specific language, and candidates speak and think in a very different language. And this disconnect is the problem. It's not a scarcity issue, it's a mislabeling, miscommunication issue. So what I would say is, and think about it, companies say things like, our job is to maximize shareholder revenue. Is there anyone you've ever met who has ever stated, I can't wait to get to work and maximize shareholder revenue? Of course not. You would not be friends with those people. If you were at a bar, you would move 2 stools away to get the heck away from that person, because that person is clearly a brain dead robot and God only knows what's about to happen. Okay, right? People think like people, right? And is it weird that we're using an AI conversation to remind you that people think like people? I don't know. That's up to you to decide. Anyway, here's what I would do. We need to unpack this concept of what is a go-getter, because we need to make it more relevant, and these ideas relevant to this brand new audience who do not label themselves as go-getters. So here's what I would do. I would go onto LinkedIn, yeah, right, surprising, and I would find 5 or 10 people, either current employees or people who are on your sourcing radar. They're like, oh yeah, they'd be great. Go to their platform profiles. Pick the ones with the most robust profiles, one with the most posts, the one with the most content, the one with the most, one where they've actually paid attention. Like look, if LinkedIn was ever honest about this stuff, there's a bell curve in terms of how people use their profile, and 90% of people do not have their dang picture on it, right? Let alone a banner, let alone all their jobs, right? They have the last job they posted when they joined LinkedIn and have since forgotten about it completely. So find the people who are active on LinkedIn and focus on them. 5 people, 10 people, whatever. I'm making up numbers here. In each LinkedIn profile, if you go into the More button, and this is even for people you are not connected with, there's a pull-down menu, and one of them is Save as PDF. This is what you want. This is what you want. This is going to scrape their profile and their About section. If you want to go hard and say, hey, we should really scrape all their posts, I would use a tool like Apify, A-P-I-F-Y. Yeah, I got it. And scrape their last 20, 40, 50 LinkedIn posts to get their feed. What you're trying to do is collect information about these people. Then you make very simple briefs. That is, you can say, here's the PDF of that profile, here's the scrape of that person, combine them, make them both PDFs, combine them in like an ilovepdf.com. And if you don't know I Love PDF, you should. It's so valuable, it's so useful, and it's free. Love it. Anyway, combine them, and now you have a profile of that person. You have 5, you have 10 profiles. Great. Now, you can go to ChatGPT. I would use the version 4 or version 03 models. O3 is the best, but I don't know if it's widely available to everybody if you're not paying for it. But O3 is definitely the best. And say, here are 5 or 10 people that we want to hire. These are the profiles, these are the people. And again, if you're smart, you do a good gender demographic split. Be smart about it, folks. Don't just pick the most obvious people. Dig deeper. Anyway, we want these people, and we would love for you to read these profiles and identify commonalities among them and language they use to describe work, what they look for in work, what they hope to do in work. New paragraph. We're trying to identify what language they use in terms of things like grit, determination, focus, self-actualization, self-ignition, whatever words you want to use here. You just want to say, we're trying to identify what go-getter means. You don't want to say that because Claude will get confused, but you kind of describe it a little bit. Identify how these people want to talk about themselves and their work in these terms. Upload those profiles and submit and see what you get. You're going to find this. Think of this as a virtual focus group, a term we're going to talk about in just a moment. And for the next question, you are looking at these 10 people and saying, hey, based on what you're saying, and ChatGPT is really good at filling in the gaps and looking at, okay, if they say these phrases, it means they probably also say these phrases. So you're really getting a much deeper pool of information from an individual than you would just by looking at their profile and scraping their posts. And frankly, it's probably deeper and way, way less cheaper than having to bring them in for an hour or two and asking them questions, because let's be fair, they're never going to answer your questions completely honestly, because focus groups are always weird. But now you can start to unpack this concept of when a company says go-getter, what is the language that you should be using to speak to this audience? And if after you see that profile, if the lights aren't going off, like it's NASCAR or something with the starting line or whatever, F1, I don't care what you watch, if lights are not going on, you're missing the point here. There should be lots of language here to help you understand this particular audience. And I do not mean programmers whose ages are 24 to 26. I mean these 10 programmers. You're getting deep, you're getting serious, you're getting real about what these people want and what will resonate with them. Because the strategy here being, the more you use language they use, the more it resonates, the more you're building rapport, the more you're building connection and relationship, the more likely they are to engage with you. So if I go up to, think of it, it's like speaking the same language. If I go up to someone who only speaks Italian and say, hey, how are you? We're not going to build much of a relationship because I'm not speaking their language. If you're talking to the kids, you got to talk the language of the kids. And I don't mean hello fellow kids and Steve Buscemi with a skateboard. I mean understand the language they use and how they talk about it. Now, the nice part about LinkedIn is it's a fairly cleaned up professional version. So it doesn't sound like you're saying skibbity toilet and looking like an idiot. I'm saying it positions you and allows you to build that professional level relationship. And I would bet all the money in my pockets against all the money in your pockets that if you do this, you're going to find that this go-getter issue dissolves, that there's a lot more people who are go-getters who would never in a million bajillion years, that's an actual term, define themselves as go-getters, no matter how many surveys the Universum does. This is how you unpack the talent scarcity problem. Is it really a scarcity problem, or is it simply a communication problem? Because a scarcity problem is really hard to fix. A communication problem, super, super easy to fix. Okay, second challenge. EVP relevance and refresh needs. As an employer brander, hi, how you doing? One of the big questions I get is, how often do you need to change your EVP? And my stock answer is, if your value proposition, meaning what you offer a candidate, has not demonstrably and obviously changed, you do not need to change your EVP. Do you need to change the creative around the EVP? That's a different question, and maybe yes. I have no problems with campaigns around and thinking seasonal or cyclical around your EVP communication, but the core of your EVP should be foundational, bedrock-like. It should be poured concrete on which you build your house. Now, what if your value proposition has changed? What if what you're offering people has changed? That's an interesting question, and yes, you will have to change the foundation, but how do you know? How do you know when you're facing the foundation's cracked, we need to bolster it up and do it again, versus this just needs a polish, this just needs a redecoration situation? How do you know? Well, AI may be able to help. So what I would do is I'd start to build your own focus group, just like we did last time. In fact, you can even use very similar ideas. You actually can tap into some other ideas. What I would say is go grab 5, 10, 20 people in your company who are just like your favorite people. If you could clone them, and you would have an amazing company, right? Grab their profiles, grab their LinkedIn feeds if they have them, go grab anything you can about them. Then I go talk to HR and say, hey, baby, how you doing? What we need is, and I'm sorry I said baby. I don't know what that was about. I'm being funny, and then it got weird, and then I apologize. That was off the dome. Anyway, you go to HR and you say, hey, you have all this engagement data, right? You're taking these surveys all the time. What are you doing with them? Can you please pull out the raw text information from those surveys? So if you've got 100 employees or 1,000 employees or 10,000 employees, whatever, they're going to pull this massive spreadsheet out, and you say, look, anonymize it. I don't need the names. I just want to know what people said and literally the language they said. So now you've got a data set. And you can say, and this is where things get really tricky. And I want to shout out to Brad Ferris, my friend Brad Ferris, who I talked to yesterday, who brought this idea up that he heard from someone else, and I don't remember who, but thanks, Brad. Anyway, this idea that you take all this data, and I know let's imagine you got 10 people, and you've got 1,000 survey results from 1,000 different people. And you dump it into a big text file. And you're thinking, oh, but I've got deep information on a handful of people, and I've got wide information, scattered, messy information about 1,000 people. This data doesn't mesh up. You're right, it doesn't, technically. But if you turned it all into a big-ass text document and you upload it to a ChatGPT, and I like ChatGPT for this because it is good at reading big-ass text documents and kind of filtering and thinking. I know that Notebook does some of this stuff. I have myself not found Notebook to be fantastic. It's an interesting alternative to have an alternative viewpoint, but for me, ChatGPT still works best for this, though I've heard good things about Gemini as of late. But you put all that data in and you say, hey, ChatGPT, here is a lot of data and a lot of conversation from and around our company. I would like you to read it and identify up to 5 personas that are most common within our company. That is employee personas. Feel free to give them a name. Feel free to give them a paragraph or two, a description of what those people are like. Go, submit, and have it run. First off, this is nuts. This is nuts. You're pulling data that's so disparate and so weird. It has like no formatting connection whatsoever. And you're going to say, use it together? It's crazy, but you will be stunned by what ChatGPT brings back to you. It will come up with those 5 profiles. It will say, hey, here's this is snarky Susan, and this is optimistic Oliver, and whatever. Like you get these ideas of, hey, in your company, there are some people who are super gung-ho and super ready to, do whatever. And you got some people who are cynical, and you got some people who are kind of reserved, and they're like not the early adopters. They want to wait and see. You've got all these different people in your company. You don't know it. And honestly, you've never assigned that kind of thinking to these people. You don't walk around and say, hey, there's Bob. Oh, he's backstabbing Bob, right? Like you don't assign those things. But if you look at large data sets, you can allow ChatGPT, or rather ChatGPT can kind of pull out the threads and say, oh yeah, here are some commonalities. Once you have that focus group, say, upload your EVP. Not the full deck. No, don't do that. Just the actual brand stuff. The 1 or 2 slides that matter. If you've got a brand brief, better for you. It's way better for you. I'm a big fan of brand briefs myself. I think decks are kind of a waste of pixels, if that's a thing to be said. But anyway, upload that and say, okay, based on these 5 personas. Remember, it remembers all this language people are using. And by the way, the language and how people talk and what they say is how the personas got made. You say, okay, let's have a virtual focus group with those 5 people. Here is the EVP. Please tell me if this still resonates to these people. What's going on here? What's going on is that ChatGPT has made this persona, and it's based on what it's seen. Maybe you found one of those LinkedIn profiles that kind of recognizes, it's hearing language that aligns with that, and it's stealing quotes, and it's putting it all together, and it's building out a pretty decent fake person persona to understand their point of view on the world and on the work. Then it applies that point of view to the work you're showing it, and it will tell you, this doesn't work for me anymore. I don't know that's not how because it's going to say, look, if you say your company is all about innovation and your your engagement scores and engagement data don't talk about innovation, that's how you find out. That's going to call it out. And it's going to do this process in like 10 or 15 minutes. Did you want to read 1,000 different, engagement score surveys, every single piece of data? Who's got that kind of time? But if it can call out really interesting stuff, and what's going to happen is it's going to say, yeah, we talk about innovation, but we don't do anything. And that's a common refrain in the engagement surveys. Guess what? It's going to tell you, yeah, that innovation call out, it's not working. Now, is it going to tell you what to do? Is it going to tell you where the real challenge is? No. That's why you're here. That's why you got to do the big brain stuff. You got to think about this stuff. But this is amazing data to give you a good sense of, is it a function of the brand no longer works, or the brand works great? Or is it more of a, hey, we need to polish up our communication around the brand because the language isn't right, or things have changed, right? COVID, work from home, coming back from home, whatever, and all this stuff that's changed. How do we talk about the employer brand now? And those surveys and those LinkedIn profiles and the fake personas are exactly how you're going to identify what's working and to whom. Now, you can even take it a step further and you can identify that, wow, this is a brand that really resonates with the optimistic Ollies and not with the cynical Susans. I'm just making these up. It's intel. It's data points for you. It's helpful information. Do you need to get cynical Susan on board? I don't know. That's up to you. This is, again, why you get paid. This is where the game is. But if you want a good sense as to whether or not you need to start diving deep and doing the hard work of how to build a brand and how to refunction, reformat, and restructure that brand, this is where I'd start. If you want to know if putting that time and effort is going to be worth it, this is the telltale sign that this is what's going to happen. Then if you're crazy and you kind of have that conversation with ChatGPT, you can take that entire conversation and say, hey, can you wrap this entire conversation and what we're learning into a one-page brief that I can hand my leaders? And ChatGPT's like, can you speak English? That's really easy. Of course, that's so simple. It's like, can you count to 3? That's exactly what I do. And it's going to do exactly that. And that's something you can start the conversation with. Hey, it's time to refresh our brand. Or, hey, it's time to give our brand a little polish. Or, hey, this isn't working, but this is. This is how you start that. All of it through ChatGPT. You could use Claude. I just think Claude doesn't do as great a job with massive data sets, which is kind of what you're throwing at it. But play with it. See what you have. What would you do? If it's me, and because I'm me, I would take that one pager from ChatGPT and throw it in Claude and say, hey, can you rewrite this? Spoiler, here's a bonus tip that you should all be listening to. I know we all talk about how AI doesn't sound all that human. Well, if you think that, you're wrong. It sounds insanely human. It makes jokes, for goodness sake. And they're decent jokes. Would I go pay to see them in a comedy club? Not so much, but they're decent jokes. They're office level jokes. They're writing really well. And what often happens is that we're very much in our own heads and we're thinking all these big ideas and all these interconnections and all these things. And we try to write it in an email. And guess what? We write a too big email. And when you write a too big email, nobody reads the email, which means you might as well have not written the damn thing at all. What I do is I grab most of my communication and I run it through Claude and I say, can you make this simpler? Can you make this more easy to absorb, easy to understand? And then I kind of give it a sense of who the audience is and bloop, there it is, bang. I don't use Claude to write and think. I use Claude to polish my language so that what I'm thinking is more clear. And man, I'm going to tell you right now, if we could all be a little more clear, everybody wins. Everybody wins. So that's your bonus tip. All right. So reminder, if this is useful stuff, you got to take the next step and do it. 2, you got to take the next step and tell someone about this program and let people know that we should all be taking this next step. Am I the only one who has these ideas and these answers? Of course not. But I think based on what I'm doing, I can help you take that next step. So subscribe, tell some people, find me on LinkedIn and bring me your challenge. I would love to just kind of answer and talk about your challenges around AI on this show and a future episode. And maybe we'll bring in some guests to talk about and kind of bang some stuff around. Might be interesting. So anyway, thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for listening. Feel free to subscribe on YouTube. By the way, spoiler as kind of an end of show message, I've got a talent strategy class coming up next week. I'm trying to think when this one's coming out. First week of June, June 11th. It's a free 30-minute talent strategy class. You should absolutely check it out. Go to choosable.work/strategy, or if you just go to choosable.work, there's a link to get you to the strategy class. It is free, and in 30 minutes, you're going to be way smarter about this talent strategy stuff, and you will be thrilled. I feel pretty confident. You'll be thrilled that you spent your 30 minutes listening to me. So, thanks so much for listening, and I will see you next week. Be sure to take the next step.